The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm gonna say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, the Russians.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again.
They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of special operations forces.
We will make America proud again.
And watch, please, those mail-in ballots.
We will make America safe again.
And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed.
They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you.
If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
I almost had you. You were late.
Yeah, I was pulling a giant tick off of my dog.
You have ticks already?
Oh, yeah. It's fucking brutal. I think this is like the epicenter of the world for ticks.
You have Lyme disease. I feel like you should have probably done something about that.
Just do something about a species that exists.
Isn't there a spray you can spray down? I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get everything in the whole town.
You know, they have those collars for the dogs. Have you considered wearing one yourself?
Yeah, I'd rather have Lyme than the cancer at this rate, I think. Although some days, I'm not sure.
Some days.
I've always felt that about those collars where they're like, if you put this on a cat, it would kill it. But if you put it on your dog, it's fine. I'm like, are you sure it's not just killing the dog, but a lot slower than it's killing the cat?
Yeah,
like,
those things are definitely killing the dogs.
That's a first principles approach to whether or not you ingest poison.
Yeah, we take a similar approach to the news cycle, and for some reason, people hate us for it. We might talk about that a little bit tonight, considering the Comey indictment has been certainly interesting. Ash is going to join us at some point tonight to try to explain the racism of the latest Supreme Court ruling to us. So whenever she's done doing her makeup, she said she'd pop on. We're also going to talk about the Comey indictment. Already said that. And then the Clinton Foundation stuff. I don't really care to get into the Iran stuff again. It's like last week. It's kind of in a holding pattern for the most part. Nothing's really changed. I mean, it's
Trump's
funny,
being funny about it. He's
always
tweeting
out
straight to Trump and
yeah,
no more Mr. Nice Guy, which that was nicely foreshadowed by Ghost and I on Sunday night. That was a fun episode of The Narrative.
That's what I heard.
We went into the NWO stuff, and Ghost, like, you know how Ghost just doesn't listen when you're like, hey, stop doing that.
Yeah.
I was like, stop playing those clips because you're going to get us copyright strike. He was like, no, just another second. And then we just watched Netflix for half of the show, and our stream got nuked from everywhere else. He was like, oh, well, whatever, fuck it. It's like, well, I kind of cared, man, but it's fine. It ended up being good, though. We did talk about the NWO and the World Wrestling stuff, which is not new, but it really revisiting it and going through the NWO era of the 90s with Hogan, man, it is hard not to look at Trump right now as a perfect analog to that.
I'll have to check that episode out. It was this most recent one you said?
Skip to, I mean this, only Ghost and I. If you guys are interested in the like Trump, Sovereign Alliance, and NWO discussion, skip 100 minutes in. An hour, 40 minutes is when we start that section, and then it's really good.
How long was that section then? How long of an episode was it?
About an hour and a half. It was like a little over 3 hours, so classic narrative length. But
crazy.
Yeah, just for people who want that section. But yeah, the sovereign, tying the Sovereign Alliance in, and you know, especially you and Chris on Saturday nights, but we talk about the feedback loops a lot with Trump, and how reason I thought of it is you were talking about our approach to the info war. And man, listening to Hulk Hogan talk about the feedback loop between the audience and the performers, and he was talking about how they would abandon storylines in real time based on the audience feedback or go harder into them. It was like the exact thing that we've theorized Trump does.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I was about to say, like, I'll check it out, but if I'm being totally honest, I probably won't. So,
Yeah, that's all right.
But for
We don't watch
those
any
in the
of each
audience,
other's
you guys
stuff.
can check it out. But yeah, let's, how about we get a quick word from our sponsors? And then we have a few tonight, so we're probably going to have to do a couple commercial breaks. But yeah, let's start with some ChefIQ.
Ooh,
Absolutely
it's the
love
season.
these guys.
'Tis the season.
It is the season. And I love this product. My girlfriend's been making all sorts of meats. We just had pork chops tonight. She uses this every time, and they always turn out great. Flowers are fine, whatever. But the gift mom actually wants is something thoughtful, something that she'll actually use. And this is that thing. You have to check out the ChefIQ IQ Sense. ChefIQ is the wireless smart thermometer that takes all the guesswork out of cooking. Alerts go to your smartphone. They tell you exactly when the meal has reached its perfect temperature. It's great for most seasoned mom, chef, or the beginners. Works on the grill, in the oven, in the air fryer, whatever it is, whatever's on the menu. It's a perfectly juicy, medium, rare filet or a herb roasted chicken. Even your next big family holiday dinner, it all turns out perfect because of the ChefIQ Sense. And what does this mean for mom? It means less hovering around the oven and more hanging out with the people she loves. And right now, with the Mother's Day sale, it's the perfect time to get one. Give mom something she'll love and something she'll use long after Mother's Day. Go to chefiq.com, use promo code DPH for 30% off. That's chefiq.com, promo code DPH. And I don't know about you. I know I can vouch for it. I'm pretty sure you use this as well.
My favorite cut to use it on is the tri-tip, also known as the Brazilian. Well, I was going to call it the Brazilian picanha, but that's not correct. That's a sirloin cap. Both of them are great for the ChefIQ. I am disturbed by how often your meat anecdotes are about pork chops.
Love me some pork chops, man.
Met people who eat pork chops.
Really?
Yeah, like my mom occasionally would serve that when I was a kid, and I would just flip the table over, slap her, and be like, "Why would you do this?" And she learned over time.
You should, when you visit me, either before or after GART Deadwood, which I heard is potentially in the works, you're gonna have some pork chops, and we'll have some steaks and stuff too. But
I mean, I'm willing to give it a try. Like I'll do pulled pork. I think that's good. But when I think of a pork chop, I just think of a tasteless in between of chicken and steak.
It's not tasteless if you do it right with your ChefIQ, man. I'm telling you, it's good shit. And my kids even eat it. That's how you know it's good. That's why we eat it so often. The kids love it. We also got, so if you use the ChefIQ Sense too much and you eat too much awesome food that's perfectly cooked, you put on a little weight, we have the product to help you take it off. We're hitting both ends here. Everybody's talking about those weight loss injections because the results are so dramatic. They work by lowering your blood sugar and reducing your appetite. But what if you're looking to lose weight and you're not interested in those painful weekly injections, especially when you hear about some of those intense side effects? That is why doctors created a weight loss supplement called Lean, and the results are remarkable. Listen, Lean is not for the casual dieter with only a few pounds to lose. The doctors at Brickhouse Nutrition created Lean for frustrated dieters with 10 or more pounds to lose, and it works because the studied ingredients in Lean have been shown to lower your blood sugar, burn your fat by converting it into energy, and curb your appetite and cravings so you're not as hungry. We can get you started with 20% off and free rush shipping so you can add Lean to your healthy diet and exercise plan. Visit takelean.com and enter code DPH for your discount. That's promo code DPH at takelean.com.
People pointing out the synergies of our sponsors tonight.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And
fatten up on the grill and then lean up before the next cookout.
And our next two sponsors we'll do later. One is like cybersecurity, and the other one's Rumble Wallet. So those kind of go hand in hand as well. But first, I think we should talk about racism, and I think there's nobody better to do that with. It's
back, baby.
Yeah,
we're bringing it back. I skimmed. Ash was posting all kinds of like wordy stuff, and I don't do that. I'm very succinct.
Yeah.
And I was like, is 3/5 back on the table was kind of what I was getting out of it, but we'll see. She can woman-splain it to us.
Yeah, I told her she needs to come on and explain it to us like we're white. So let's see if we get that. Ash, what's up?
Hi, guys.
How's
I'm
it
so
going?
excited. This is a great decision, and I think it goes beyond redistricting. At least the principles that the court is employing goes beyond redistricting.
Should we explain what decision we're talking about exactly? It's the Louisiana map that got rejected, right?
Yeah.
This
So
one?
I actually think it'll be good to just kind of read the intro part of the decision where Alito explains the backstory
All
of
right.
how we got here, and then we can talk about what they decided. If you want to pull, yeah. So Justice Alito delivered the opinion of the court, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And by the way, if you watch Culture of Change on Monday night, you already kind of had a sense of this whole thing. I had no idea this decision was coming down, so that was just 2 days ago.
Awesome.
But yeah, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was designed to enforce the Constitution, not to collide with it. Unfortunately, lower courts have sometimes applied this court's Section 2 precedents in a way that forces states to engage in the very race-based discrimination that the Constitution forbids. The tension between Section 2 and the Constitution came to a head when Louisiana redrew its congressional districts after the 2020 census. In 2022, a federal judge in the Middle District of Louisiana held that the map adopted by the state legislature likely violated Section 2 because it did not include an additional Black majority district. But when the state drew a new map that contained such a district, its new map was challenged as a racial gerrymander.
Wait, so a judge said that the original map needed a majority Black district?
That without a second majority Black district, it violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and they just assumed that was correct.
Was it a Black judge by chance?
I don't know. It was 3 judges.
It's usually not. They usually use the whiteys as shielding. Usually white women are the ones that pull these kind of shenanigans, in my experience.
So it was 3 judges.
With
Being
white and
racist?
Black judges?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, just
I
checking.
mean, the white guilt only works on women, is what I'm saying.
And that's not necessarily true. Soy men also.
That's
fit in
true.
with
Yes.
those.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the 3 court judge panel said this map likely violates equal protections under the 14th Amendment. This comes up in one of the footnotes, and where Alito just kind of rubs the Sonia and the Banshees dissenters' noses in it, which is fun. The parties originally briefed and argued this suit last term. We covered those arguments. And their arguments at that time highlighted problems in the existing body of case law. In this decision, if you're interested in how redistricting and gerrymandering litigation has gone through the Supreme Court, Alito lays it all out. He goes back through all of the cases and explains that they have dealt with the racial gerrymandering question before, but they've never dealt with the underlying question of whether or not the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act allows them to be racist, right? Does it allow them to make race the number one issue in drawing districts? They've always assumed that if you have a good enough reason, yes. This case deals with that question. And it's a question that's been the can has been kicked down the road for 40 years.
40 years?
40 years.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of cases where it's come up, but they've declined to answer that question. They've just assumed that if you have a good enough reason, you can do it.
And this is all based on an underlying philosophy. It's kind of like the most cliche, almost annoying thing a lot of people say, which is the Democrats are the real racists. But it really, besides the legalese, it's baked into how modern people are educated, especially in higher education, where I remember arguing with my friend's now ex-wife. I'd like to think I had some part to play in that. Who is an Indian liberal woman who claimed to be American and was educated in like these Ivy League bullshit, and told me with a straight face like 10 years ago, it's impossible to be racist against white people. So it's that age-old, like, they have to have that as the foundation, or else you can't even have a reasonable... You can't base anything reasonable, logical off of something like this unless you are operating from that premise.
Right. So the party in this case, Calais, I think is how you pronounce it, that is a group of non-minority voters that are challenging that very question, Bernie Bright. It's like your time has come.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all based on that minority, right? That's how they define it. Like, they don't talk about race. It's all discussed in terms of a numbers game, right? So ostensibly, by their framing, if and when white replacement theory took off, would eventually the whites get white districts? Like, I don't think it would work that way, but the way it's phrased, they would.
So the actual decision from Alito is 42 pages, and that is actually dealt with as well. And they say that that is repugnant to the kind of society that we have in the United States of America, to have that segregated, to have that be the driving force.
But we should go through like your favorite parts of this.
Yeah, I'm just giving you guys the backstory because there's a bunch of different. So all right, I'll speed it up for you, John.
We'll just TLDR the backstory instead of reading the whole thing.
So the court basically said, Louisiana, you have to draw a second minority district or a second black district, and if you don't, we're going to draw one for you and make you adopt it. And
the court said that.
The court said that. Lower court said that. Yeah, and then Louisiana drew one, and there's actually pictures.
Was it the shape of a penis?
Sorry, here, let me pull this down so that it doesn't make everybody dizzy while I go to the pictures.
If I got to draw congressional maps, I'd probably make them the shape of a penis.
Probably find one across the country. I bet there's one, at least one that's shaped like a penis. So this one that, well, this is the original map that was racist, right? Doesn't have a second black district. So this, you can't see my cursor. The little tiny teal one.
Yeah. Bernie Bray, can you see the color?
No, it doesn't matter.
It's got a number 2 right over the middle of it. Bernie Bray. Okay. That Justice Alito says it looks like a bat. That's the original majority black district. So then in 2022, Louisiana enacted the new map HB1 that closely resembled the other map. They have still have 2, so it's yellow now. Can you see yellow?
I can actually, yes.
Okay, so that's the main district, and then they drew another one. This map got rejected, however. So we'll go down to the other maps. So then the green one is the new one that they drew, and then when they drew that one, a bunch of non-minority voters sued and basically challenging the equal protection.
I think these are so ridiculous. Like, you would think a congressional district would be like one connected geographical area of people, not one that like weaves its way through the state just so you can get the vote that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said. So we got this decision came down during Badlands Daily this morning. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly my position, is that, and we had just been talking about Texas and Virginia. And it's like, yay, Texas got their seats, but Virginia can't do that, right? It's like, hang on a second, let's look at this process and what are we doing? And the decision here does not help our cause in that respect, because the decision affirms that partisan gerrymandering, so political parties protecting incumbents, setting a certain mix for different, reasons. There's a whole bunch of legal reasons that they are allowed to partisan gerrymander at the state level, and it is not reviewable in federal court.
So they're allowed to draw districts based on political affiliation, but this is about racial status.
You cannot engage in you cannot review partisan gerrymandering. You can review racial gerrymandering. And what the opinion says, and what prior decisions have said, is that you can't repackage partisan gerrymandering as racial gerrymandering just to get it reviewable. But this was racial gerrymandering. That's what the court held, that this was determined to make a black district. The goal was race, and they say you can't do that. So I find that hilarious. But it goes even further because, and let me find some of these quotes. I think that this goes to the heart of critical race theory, that the systemic injustice of the past should drive our conduct in society, or our institutions in society today. Alito says discrimination that occurred some time ago, present day disparities characterized as ongoing effects of societal discrimination, are entitled to much less weight. On the totality of circumstances, the focus must be on the evidence that has more than a remote bearing on what the 15th Amendment prohibits. It has to be present day intentional racial discrimination regarding voting, discrimination that occurred some time ago, and present day disparities characterized as ongoing effects of societal discrimination are less considered. So we're getting to kind of this critical theory has kind of infected all of our institutions. Yeah. I think if other things were like, a minority voter is entitled to no more or no less than any other voter. It's equal opportunity, right? Why is that not the same for a student? a minority student or a minority someone else, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's interesting. Basically, what they said is that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the TLDR of this thing, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act does not permit them or require them in any way to draw a second black district. That was a false assumption that all of these years of litigation have, been operating on. They've never answered that question before. Does Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act allow them to be racist, allow them to make race the deciding factor when they're drawing congressional districts? The answer is no.
So then what happens? Which map are they going to use?
I don't know. We don't know yet because it's been remanded.
Interesting. And how does this affect like Texas and all these other states? And does it even matter with how fake our elections are anyway? Or is this something like that this will be really good once we fix our election system too, if that ever happens?
So I think this is part of fixing our election system because the rig starts, Brian and I were talking about this on Why We Vote last night, the manipulation, and it might start at some other point before, but it's certainly, like the one point we can pinpoint as a starting point is where the districts are drawn. That's how the election manipulation starts. And that is, I'm still irritated by the partisan gerrymandering is okay. We can protect all of our incumbents. We can protect, it should be, I would think it would be more determinative of the communities and the population, but also representation itself is diluted almost entirely, right? I mean, it was 1 to 30,000 and now it's 1 to 790,000.
I mean, this is one of those, long marches, but the partisan gerrymandering just makes me go back to what you and I even referenced on the Blitz on Saturday, which is the dissolution of political parties. Yeah. And I hope that Trump is doing some work. I don't mean doing some work behind the scenes, but like publicly doing some work to try to help expose the GOP, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if the gerrymandering based on partisanship really matters as much as the fact that so many Americans feel that they must affiliate with a corporate entity, essentially, or a team, like before they. I know these are very old, like first principles arguments, but just the need to affiliate with a team is a massive weakness, and I think most people in our audience would agree with that, even if they have registered as a Republican and believe in like the lesser of two evils type of thing and support Trump, all that. It's such a problem because you're just going in like if quote unquote the disembodied they know that that's how the country is split, then the gerrymandering is less of a big deal for them. They just got to get the right Republican that's a systemite Republican, in these states, and then it doesn't really matter. They know Team Red votes for Team Red. They don't vote based on principle. They vote based on who is Team Red and who is Team Blue.
So I completely agree with you. And I think that is a battle that's still in our future, the party battle. We're feeling that here in Colorado. We have, 51%, and this will be at the state level. This districting anyway, and most of the election related stuff happens at the state level. It's why we have, different standards and rules across different states, is because that's a state power. Here, 51% of the voting population is unaffiliated. We have two absolutely retarded parties that are the definition of the controlled opposition dynamic. So you have the blue in the majority, and I think that this is true in every state. It just, depending on which party it is. But you have the blue in power. They have a triple majority. They do whatever they want. Then you have the red in the minority. They fight with each other all the time, try to raise money, and then throw up their hands and say, oh, nothing we can do, Democrats, and nothing ever changes. Yeah. But there's a bit of a revolt happening as the parties are hemorrhaging voters. And we have this representative caucus process, right? Where in your local community, we talked about this on DPH live, right? I said caucus like 4,000 times. But you have, the most representative process. The establishment Democrats and the establishment Republicans are desperately trying to destroy the caucus because it takes their power away. It allows the people essentially to choose who gets on the ballot. Things like that. Those battles are local. They're very important in determining, what kind of America we're going to have, and that fight is happening now and in our future.
What do you think the actual fallout from this ruling is going to be? Like, where are we going to see the effects of it show up?
So I think that I'm looking for the part where I had captured the part. I don't know where it is exactly, but there's a part in the decision where Alito says that they wanted to answer this now because they know that there are a number of lower courts dealing with this issue right now, the redistricting question, and they want it to be resolved before the midterms. So I think it has potential. We heard that Florida just adopted their new maps today. This is going to impact the mix, the composition of the House in the midterms. So that's probably the biggest one, the biggest, most immediate impact. What else? Go ahead.
You seem to think, though, that other than the election system specifically, some of the wording in this, since it's a Supreme Court precedent-setting type of thing, is how that comment that you put into the chat earlier about minorities not being due any advanced protections or other rights on the basis of elections. Like, you can take that as a foundational principle and apply that to anything. Like, well, if minorities are not afforded or due any excess rights from an election or representation perspective, how on earth could it be argued anything else?
Yes, and that's a really important point of kind of the macro of this. So you will hear, I think Barack Obama said it today, Norm Eisen and Mark Elias are probably freaking out. You'll hear, and I've even used this language before because it's, an easy shorthand, but that the Voting Rights Act, it was gutted, that Section 2 was gutted. The reality is that the Voting Rights Act never authorized any of this expansive progressive shit they've tried to do. The expansiveness of the sections has been repeatedly shut down. The only two sections that still carry some weight in the Voting Rights Act, Section 2 before today, and Section 11, which is the intimidation statute. And in both of those, the progressives are trying to expand the meanings. And the reason for that is that the problem that these statutes were established to create has largely been resolved. Alito talks about this in the decision. We've had massive change since 1965. Back in 1965, the racists that were suppressing the votes of blacks were largely in government. They had power, right? They were, and so this was set up so that the minorities had a recourse for that. That has largely been resolved. What people like Norm Eisen and Mark Elias have attempted to do, and it's not just them, it's a whole ecosystem, and I think it ties to the SPLC stuff, right? But they have tried to expand the definition of intimidation, expand the definition of racism, expand these definitions so that these statutes can still be the umbrella for lawfare. They've built law school pathways for fighting this. This is at least a decade. The voter strike back, I talked about this on Monday, was written in 2015, and it takes a very expansive view of these statutes so that they can engage in lawfare, in my opinion, to punish their political opponents. For Section 2, that died today. They have used that ambiguity, the fact that the courts haven't dealt with this underlying issue of we're allowed to be racist if we're solving racism, right? They haven't dealt with that. Now they have, and they can't do it anymore. It's a big deal. This is systemic change, and it's systemic change that has been needed for 40 years, but certainly for in the modern season where we have all this lawfare, everything is racist. In the age of Trump, particularly, I feel like this ends at least part of the season.
Yeah, Mark Elias had an article. I didn't read it, but just this is what he posted. In a 6-3 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court kneecapped the Voting Rights Act, the landmark civil rights law that restricted racial gerrymandering and racial discrimination in voting for 60 years. And it's so funny how they look at this and clearly like making an all-black district or whatever, that is super racist, right? Yet they don't see it that way. It's so inverted. But also, who voted against this? Because wasn't it, who are the three?
Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji BJ.
Okay, so was what you'd expect.
Sonia and the Banshees, yeah. They're always the dissenters, and they're very upset that they can't be racist anymore. The one thing that I think people need, so two things I think people need to be aware of. Mark Elias, Brian and I covered this, and I think I put it in the brief as well. He came out with a video 2 months ago about 7 things we need to do to stop President Trump's attack on elections. They are all state level legislation. and they are state level legislation intended to rebuild what they've lost at the federal level in their expansive view of voting rights, to rebuild it at the state level. They're trying to get rid of local involvement in the certification of elections, county controls they're trying to remove all the federal stuff. They want to centralize everything in the hands of the states. So you have to watch your states. That's one. The second thing is, I think we have to deal with this partisan gerrymandering thing. What Alito said is, one may lament partisan gerrymandering, but for the reasons explained in Ruscio, one of the precedent cases, partisan gerrymandering claims are not justiciable in federal court. And racial gerrymandering case, in a racial gerrymandering case like the one before us, race and politics must be disentangled, as even the author of the dissent has acknowledged. So, what that means is we're going to be if we want to change the way we do redistricting, it's going to have to be us, because right now the precedent that is being held at the Supreme Court is that, ostensibly Abigail Spanberger can do whatever the hell she wants. As long as she's not doing it on race.
If you guys are going to join teams, if you guys are going to join like political sports teams, the Supreme Court's not going to get involved in that.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So that's again, we have the ability to affect change, but we have to turn it right.
You don't think there'll be a case that gets to SCOTUS on political gerrymandering? Are we going to see that from Virginia?
Maybe that's what happens, is that question, the partisan gerrymandering as opposed to racial gerrymandering, is revisited by SCOTUS. But as of right now, that's where it's at.
Maybe the gerrymandering thing altogether should just be, put to bed.
Maybe the real gerrymandering was the friends we made along the way.
I love that.
One funny thing too. Oh, go ahead, Barry.
Well, I was just a macro point, even to what John said early on, our usual faking gayness of elections. This doesn't fix any of that, but I think it stands as a reverse indicator, not the decision here. That's obviously a good thing, but the attempt by these people to redraw all the maps and everything ahead of the midterms. I know this isn't a new process, but that's one of the things I find most encouraging about what they fear about what Trump or what's going to be done about election systems, right? Because if a lot of what we talk about, it matters who counts the votes, it matters how transparent that process is, it matters if American citizens actually can audit the elections themselves. All of that stuff has not happened yet, which is why we're at square one, basically, to John's earlier point. But the fact that the enemy, obviously, who steals the elections, knows that, and are going through all of these steps to do all of these different things and try to sort of fortify their system, at the very least, it demonstrates that they are looking for alternative pathways to affect fraud outside of just having their control, having their hand on the button, which to me, I take as them de facto admitting that whether or not they know election reform is coming, they fear that Donald Trump's executive orders are real and will have teeth, even if they don't know what those are going to be. So to me, some of this racial gerrymandering, partisan gerrymandering, like you guys are talking about, these are all these different ways that they're trying to kick this stuff into high gear, because to me, it looks like an enemy who's like, man, I don't really like how the prime front is looking ahead. Our main pathway might be taken from us, so we should find some alternative routes of stealing these elections. It doesn't mean it's been solved yet, but they wouldn't be acting this way if it wasn't going to be.
Well, see, I don't necessarily see it that way. I mean, we hope, obviously, we've been talking about that for 4 years, that, we hope they're going to fix the election system. But the way I see all these other little subplots that are like the gerrymandering and the mail-in voting and all the other bullshit, the more expansive that stuff is for them, the less actual just vote switching on the machines that they need to do, because they have all the other stuff.
It's less obvious. It obscures the rigging at the very least. It helps them out with it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of more on where Burning Bright is at. So if you think about Hava came in 2002, that gave birth to the election system, the modern election system and the modern election industry, right? All of this public-private partnership ecosystem, all these players. Then you had in 2004, Act Blue was created. The first time Act Blue got kind of caught smurfing. My characterization of what happened, there's a whole legal court case, but I think it was primitive smurfing. Smurfing is using the identities of other people to launder money as campaign donations. was in the 2008 election. Obama's message was, he's cracked the internet and he's figured out how to use small donors. People are just donating $1 and he's raised, $480 billion. It's not that number, but that was a narrative. And then right after the election, New York Times comes out with the small donors that weren't. And the Campaign Finance Institute had a report about how there was a lawsuit. The lawsuit didn't come out until right after the 2012 election. Obama's campaign got the largest campaign finance violation in history at that point. But the message also then was Mitt Romney figured it out too. Everybody's using small donors now, right? And then this so we got accountability. We fined Obama. He still gets to be president, but we fined Obama. And it's Act Blue and Win Red. Brian and I talk about this all the time. We've been covering this for years, and all this stuff about the small donors that weren't. If you read the brief or watch Why We Vote, you know that already. So it was systemic change to get us into this, and it was building blocks, right? It's not the machine rigging versus the mail-in ballot fraud versus the fake voters. It's all of it working together with the NGO ecosystem, the Get Out the Vote, that whole group, with the people in government, the progressives in government. If we listen to Mark Elias, his power center for progressives in government is at the state level. He has no control at the county level. He's out of control now at the federal level. He's focused on centralizing everything at the state level. And to your point, I think he is trying to grab control where he has it and be able to still maintain some control. What we are seeing, in my opinion, is all of these building blocks being dismantled. And it feels very chaotic and disjointed. But if you consider it in the totality of elections and the journey that we've been on since the hanging chads of 2000 gave us HAVA, gave us Act Blue, it's been a very kind of step change process to get us here. All of those different building blocks are in the news right now being challenged. I also think if you look and listen to Mark Elias, that dude is terrified.
Yeah,
he is freaking all the way out. Okay, two funny things. And then, unless you have other questions, I'll let you guys go. Okay. So you mentioned, Democrats are the racist ones, right? So Alito makes a point to say, explaining, this is citing a part of a precedent, explaining that a change to at-large voting could nullify the ability of minority voters to elect their candidate of choice. The court also cited strong evidence that the legislature had done so in the case at hand, writing, at a time when the Democrat Party was dominant in much of Texas, the court noted that, quote, white-dominated organization which had effective control over candidate slating within that party had engaged in racial campaign tactics in white precincts to defeat candidates who had the overwhelming support of the Black community, thereby effectively excluding the Black community from participation in the Democrats' primary selection process back in 1965. So
re-explain that.
Alito is essentially saying the reason these statutes were enacted in the first place is because of Democrats.
Oh, really? That's
and
awesome.
He calls them out specifically by party, which I find hilarious. And then the second part that is just too good to pass up is he's talking to the three dissenting justices. And this is just in a footnote, but he says, the dissent claims that the 14th Amendment is irrelevant to our analysis, but the dissent appears to forget, or at least tries to lead the readers to forget, that the decision before us is based on the 14th Amendment. The plaintiffs claimed, and the court below held, that the map enacted by the state legislature in SB 8 impermissibly discriminated on the basis of race and thus violated the plaintiffs' rights under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. So he's like, what are you guys doing?
That's amazing.
You're retarded.
They are retarded. I hope, never mind. Yeah, I don't have any other questions, but this sounds good. Like, it seems like we've had a few interesting rulings from SCOTUS.
Yeah.
Recently. I'm curious if Virginia gets there, if they actually address the political gerrymandering. I think that'd be a big one.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that might be the case that gets it dealt with. Reading the decision, it doesn't sound like they want it dealt with. I think they want that to be a state level issue, which would mean that the Virginia Supreme Court, who heard the case on Monday, will be the deciding voice in that. And Brian, last night, he listened to that whole hearing. I didn't. But he said last night he thought they were going to overturn it and throw out the map. And then this morning he comes on Daily. He's like, I don't know, because the kind of controlling point is that voters voted. And once voters voted, you can't undo the voters voting, even if they've been totally hoodwinked by the and the process was rigged. So
they shouldn't have been wearing that.
So Brian is riding the fence again, which I know is shocking to everybody.
Yeah. Wow.
It's totally shocking.
You mentioned the 60s and racism, and it just makes me think of one of my favorite inversions to turn on local liberals where I live in the JFK neighborhoods is that JFK is the one who introduced the term affirmative action, and it was literally 100% inverted on what he said. So affirmative action, as he introduced it, was specifically meant to counter these practices.
Yeah.
It was meant to create colorblind governance and to prosecute any governance that was based on race, religion, ethnicity, etc. And now it's kind of funny, like that sounds so obvious, but when you say the word affirmative action in 2026, what does everybody think of? They think of the exact opposite. Because, and that's like, it's simple, but in terms of how they sell these changes to Normieville, because Normieville doesn't pay attention to the nuance of any of this stuff, they literally take something that was the opposite and they use that as the branding. So when we talk about inversion, it's not like, oh, JFK wanted equal opportunity and equal equality, and so the Democrats inverted that. Like, no, they wore it and then said JFK, affirmative action. And it's like, yes, and affirmative action meant the opposite. And to use another Boston analog, this reminds me, the whole gerrymandering thing and everything based on racial grounds anyway. The reason Boston still has a reputation as a racist city, which I talk about as being like true, but also a complete inversion and misread of what that all came from. It was the busing era. I don't know if like nationwide this is a very well-known thing, but in the early 70s, they introduced forced busing in Boston, where you had naturally segregated schools based on where people lived, right? So black people lived in one neighborhood, white Irish kids lived in another neighborhood, each neighborhood had a school. In the early 70s, they forced busing where they forcibly integrated all the schools. So they literally, like if your kids were going to the Irish school, they took a third of them and put them at the black school, and they replaced them with the third of the black kids at the black school. And obviously, if you're not a complete fucking idiot, the point of that was to create racial tension and violence between black kids and white kids in Boston, and it worked. And that's why you've got all these working class Irish white guys who hate black guys in Boston, and the black guys are the same way, because that's what you did. It wasn't like this, oh, we desegregated the schools. Like, no, you forcibly integrated by pulling kids out of their own neighborhoods and putting them into other ones. So it's all been the same shit, but this is obviously just an intellectual
Speaking of black
version
guys, you remind me of something that I didn't mention. Justice Thomas does a concurring opinion. It's really short. It's, like a couple of paragraphs, but his point is that he says, I would go further. I don't think Section 2 authorizes any role in redistricting at all. That we're, applying this racial standard to an area that it doesn't belong. The statute doesn't authorize it at all. And he says that he's been saying that for 30 years.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks,
Cool.
guys. Just a reminder, I'm not an attorney, and I can be retarded at times. So if I was retarded, just let me know.
I don't think you were.
And nothing
I
I
don't
said
think we
was
were
legal
racist
advice.
either.
Nothing I said was legal advice. It was civic advice, though. Seriously, watch your state because Mark Elias is coming.
That's scary.
I know.
Anyway, thanks, Ash.
Bye, guys.
When are you back on?
Tomorrow morning. Oh, thank you for this opportunity. Tomorrow morning, Ghost and I have episode 6 of the season 3 of The Choice that we're doing. And then Brian and I launch book club in our new time slot right after the Daily Herald. So you can read us, John. And we are doing The Creature from Jekyll Island. Starts tomorrow.
Awesome. When can I start doing the Mother's Day soft disclosure ad?
We're going to launch it in OnlyLands, but you can do it now. Well, no, you can't do it now. You have to wait until Friday. We have another promo running in the email. If folks aren't signed up for soft disclosure emails, you're missing out on good deals. So sign up for Soft Disclosure, email softdisclosure.com, get yourself some lotion, and definitely tune in to OnlyLands because we have a new Soft Disclosure ad dropping. That's awesome.
It's coming.
That's
and
becoming the sell. The ad is becoming the sell now for people.
This is the prequel, like the new commercial is going to be the sequel to this commercial. So I'm going to play this one now since you're here, Ash. And but yeah, we'll see you later. We have more to cover after this. So
bye, guys.
Yeah, see ya.
Peace.
In a quiet town where beards grow wild and lips dare to crack without permission, one woman has suffered.
Hi, I'm Margie, and I'm Patriot's mother.
But the world would come to know her by another name, Madame Margie, the moistureless.
Jay came home with a lip balm. It's called Soft Disclosure.
With one miraculous application, her power awakened.
Within one day, my lips were healed. It was miraculous.
But salvation came at a cost. For in the shadowed lands known only as Badlands,
You boys at Badlands are so handsome.
she saw potential.
You're covering up your beautiful faces.
And she made her demand.
Shave them all off,
Or face the consequences. Beard oil will not save you now.
and you'll look so much better.
This summer, moisturize wisely and guard your beard. Because Madame Margie, the moistureless, is always watching.
So the sequel to that commercial is coming this Friday. So
right.
Make sure you guys tune into OnlyLands. We also have another sponsor I want to get to now, and then we'll get to our final one a little bit later. Oh, that's not it. It's these guys. Patriot Protect. We are in the middle of one of the worst stretch of data breaches this country has ever seen, and it's hitting right in the middle of tax season. In just the last 90 days, a government contractor that handles Medicaid and benefits for 46 states got hacked. 25 million Americans had their social security numbers and medical records stolen. The Texas Attorney General called it the largest breach in American history. Panera Bread had 5 million customers exposed. Under Armour had 72 million email addresses dumped online. All on top of a record 3,300 data breaches in 2025 alone. And here's why you need to care right now. Criminals are using this stolen data to file tax returns in your name and take your refund. The IRS flagged 2 million returns for identity fraud last year. If it happens to you, the average wait to get it resolved is almost 2 years. And it's not just breaches. Right now, data brokers and people search sites are publishing your name, your home address, your phone number, even your family members' names, all searchable by anyone online. Scammers don't even need to hack you. They just look you up. Patriot Protect fixes that, though. Their search and destroy protocol scans Google and over 200 data broker sites, finds your personal information, and removes it continuously. Most services tell you after your identity gets stolen, but Patriot Protect removes the information criminals need to steal it in the first place. And because of what we're seeing right now, Patriot Protect is offering 15% off any plan. Use promo code BADLANDS at patriot-protect.com/DPH. Again, that's patriot-protect.com/DPH. Your data's already out there. It's time to take it back. All right. Well, it was fun having Ash on. We should have asked her opinion on the Comey indictment, but we can probably get to that a little bit later anyway. So it wasn't quite as racist as I figured it would be, that segment.
We're holding it in.
A little disappointing, but how about we talk about the Clinton Foundation stuff real quick first, and then we can get into the Comey indictment and, I don't know, see where we want to go from there. We got a new declassified documents from Grassley, and you know how I am with declassified documents. I absolutely love them. And a lot of it was reruns. For anybody who's been paying attention since like 2015 and paying attention to the corruption that's come from the Clinton family, Peter Schweitzer's book, Clinton Cash, has a lot of this stuff in there. So there isn't a ton of new information. You know, the Uranium One scandal, Hillary Clinton's brother getting a gold permit down in Haiti, the first one they've ever offered in like 50 years or something, right in the midst of the United States giving a ton of money and support after the earthquake stuff. You can go through the whole list of all the major things and all this corruption with the foundation, the pay-for-play schemes. Well, it turns out that they decided to open up an investigation into all this bullshit. And the stuff that Grassley put out highlights some pretty concerning behavior and a pretty interesting timeline, which is what I kind of want to focus in on. Let me find the actual timeline here. Did I go too far? I think I did. Hold on, let me scroll back up a little bit. January 2016. Where are we at? This. What the heck? Hold on, I gotta get to the right spot here. This is the old timeline that was already released. We already knew all this. I had it highlighted at one point, and now I lost it. Okay, yeah, no, this is it. Maybe. Why does this not look the same? No, I'm just gonna go to my Twitter post instead, because this has it. So the first thing that stuck out to me is this. They were told, the investigators at Little Rock, FBI Little Rock, when they opened the investigation, they were told by FBI HQ, I was like, hey guys, you can do your little investigation or whatever you want to do, but you cannot take any overt investigative steps. And why I think that's important, because that means like no subpoenas, no interviews, no search warrants, absolutely nothing that could get it out in the public that there's an actual investigation going on. They wanted it to be like the investigation didn't exist.
Yeah.
And when you equate that to what they've done to Trump over the last like decade or so in terms of these investigations, by constantly running to the media and leaking the investigations, or just basically doing them publicly in the open anyway, it's a complete inversion of the narrative warfare that we see, and kind of just shows the importance and how they recognize the importance. And when we go to that clip that Trump always, or that I always play, it's my favorite clip of Trump, where he's like, it's the same political persecution from the same agencies that have been being done for the last illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people that have been done for the last 7 years. He's talking about these agencies. He knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And so when they come in and say like, hey, nothing can be done in the public, I think that's notable. And I'll pause here if you want.
I was looking for something on, I was looking for the infamous clip that I will find at some point, but
which one?
Just on a macro. It was from, I think, the Al Smith dinner, charity dinner from 2016 between Trump and Clinton. I'll find the clip, but where he brings up Haiti and basically accuses her of committing crimes against humanity there through a joke. But there's also just as a like macro backdrop, most people in this audience are well aware of that stuff. It was some of the original rabbit holes hinted at in the Q drops, and even before the Q drops, it was popular rabbit hole during the Pizzagate. Yeah, this must be it.
Everyone, of course, Hillary's belief that it takes a village, which only makes sense, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them.
So that obviously that was the most mimetic version of it, but even if you just look around during that time period, he had made a bunch of comments about the Clinton Foundation in Haiti, and it got all the media protectorate to put out their anti-hit pieces. So BBC, what really happened with the Clintons in Haiti. Trump said the work of Bill and Hillary Clinton in Haiti was a disgrace. The Clintons family, they're crooks, they're thieves, they're liars. So that was actually not Trump who said that, but Trump in the third debate with Clinton said, I was at a little Haiti the other day in Florida, and I want to tell you they hate the Clintons because what's happened in Haiti with the Clinton Foundation is a disgrace. So you got that. You got factcheck.org, who put out one of their things about this back at the time, false corruption claims. He's talking about Uranium One and all that, but just these are rabbit holes that a lot of people went down back in 2016, 17, 18, etc. And I just think we've talked about this going back to Solomon's statements in 2025. One of the white pill ways to look at it all is it's more about the timing of this stuff re-entering the zeitgeist. And if multiple of these stories are entering at the same time, it's interesting in that a lot of these stories were the original scandals that Trump himself was bringing up. Besides the Epstein Island stuff, which obviously, as we've talked about a million times, was like the most viral internet theories, the stuff Trump was talking about, a lot of it had to do with the Clinton Foundation and Haiti in particular back in 2016. So anytime you see those trigger words come up, especially if it's through a Trump DOJ, it's notable.
Yeah. By the way, is my mic Can you hear me all right?
It was messed up in the last segment for like 30 seconds, but it's good now.
Yeah, I think my thing froze a little bit, but anyway, yeah, in terms of stuff like re-entering the zeitgeist, I don't know how much we're going to get of that. Actually, it's interesting. We definitely could. I mean, the Clinton Foundation stuff, it does have Haiti, tangents. So there's a lot to it. We just don't know if they're actually investigating this anymore. Like, they're investigating the investigators, the FBI, but I don't know if that means we're going to get to relitigate the Clinton Foundation investigation and redo it the way it should have been done. That's like kind of yet to be determined. So we'll see. But I think they're definitely going to kind of get to the bottom of, hey, why didn't you guys actually investigate any of this stuff? And I think it goes hand in hand with, their political persecution in that Rico Grande case. So it is notable to me that this is actually coming out at all. Mm-hmm. But there's an interesting timeline aspect to when this investigation started. And it started in January of 2016. Let me get to the timeline here. January 2016 is when FBI Little Rock meets with FBI HQ. They open the investigation. FBI HQ says, hey, go ahead, but nobody, you basically can't really, it's public information only. You can't do anything that actual FBI is allowed to do. Then later in August, they do another telephone conference with the FBI and a couple other offices, and they tell Little Rock to close down their investigation. And instead, it's going to be all switched over to FBI New York. And that's like, they got connections to Comey. They got connections to McCabe, Stroke, Page, like all the players. They were doing the Wiener laptop. But they tell Little Rock to shut it down. And the timing of this, I think, is most notable to me is because the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and everything all happens right before this, in the days leading up to this in July. Hillary Clinton on July 26th, she puts out that email like, hey, yes, I approve of the plan to vilify Trump. The FBI, like a day or so later, intercepts Russian communications. And so the FBI knows about it. Brennan on July 28th goes to brief Obama. And then 2 days after that, they open Crossfire Hurricane, July 31st. And the very next day, they shut down the Little Rock investigation into the Clinton Foundation. And as you know, like, they're also doing the Clinton email scandal investigation out of the same office too. Those all get shut down. Nothing comes of any of those. But then the Russiagate thing turns into this big thing, right? So it's another example of the FBI and the intelligence community. Again, the same one where Trump said, it's the same. I'm just going to play the damn clip since I keep butchering it.
Don't forget, this persecution is being done by the same weaponized agencies that for 7 years have been running illegal psychological warfare campaigns against the American people, much as if they were trying to destabilize a foreign country. From the Russian...
It's those people that he's talking about in that clip, my favorite clip. They were actively politically persecuting Trump while suppressing and burying and not investigating anything having to do with Hillary Clinton. And so the fact that we believe this Rico Grande investigation going on in the background, which should tie all these pieces together, you would assume that the fact that they did perpetuate the Russiagate scandal, but didn't look into actual allegations into the Clinton Foundation, those two things go hand in hand. Some are the same people, goes hand in hand. I think it's notable that this is coming out for that reason.
Yeah, and as obvious as it is, it's worth ruminating on the point that the psychological warfare operations they launched, a lot of them, it's almost like they took in the actual scandals. They knew about the actual scandals, and with the Clinton Foundation, I mean, and they took those in, they ran defense on these, and they ran cover on these, but the attacks they then forwarded on Trump from a fifth-gen warfare perspective pretty much took the theming and the actuals from the real perpetrators of these scandals and then rebranded them to Trump scandals. A lot of it was a lot of similar templates. You had like offshore banking, you had the Uranium One scandal tying to Russians. We can debate on whether or not that was the Russians in the Kremlin or whether this was a different thing that was going on and what might have been going on with Uranium One. That's its whole rabbit hole with many different offshoots of it. But either way, it's like, I've had my theories of why they started with Russia against Trump. And I think a lot of it ties into the Sovereign Alliance stuff we've talked about. But I think some of it also ties into the fact that if it's not just running legal cover and suppressing the investigations of the Clinton, a big part of the psychological warfare operations were flooding the zone. And the most effective way to flood the zone isn't to just blast out like random salacious Trump scandals. It's Trump scandals that if the actuals come back around a couple years later, like it blitzed the normie battle space so much that if Donald Trump tried to get on a stage and start talking about Clinton Foundation corruption with a foreign adversary, it looked like he was following a narrative rather than leading a narrative. And that has a massive impact when it comes to mass psychology, which is part of why I think Trump frames it that way. You know, like it's the age-old, I know you are, but what am I type of thing. I'm rubber, you're glue. If the Clinton apparatus and the Clinton machine, they were front-running the accusations at them by rebranding the stories and hitting Trump with them first, basically. And obviously they had help in doing that by the legal apparatus.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, most people didn't know there was an FBI investigation going on. Do you remember what they did even with the Clinton email scandal? Like it's so obvious when you look at it in hindsight. They had the emails, right? And then Comey comes out like no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges. And then there's like more emails that came out or something. And so they did a rush job to like look into those and like, oh, yep, still, we're not going to investigate this.
Yeah.
And then this investigation, they were told, like, we know now, and maybe we knew this then too. And that's the thing, like not paying attention at the time. I don't know how much of this is actually new information. To me, it's new, some of it. And that's what, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I didn't know before. And it's the caveats. Like we know for a fact now that these people were told that they couldn't do certain things, take certain investigative measures because it was an election. Like, did they do any of that for Trump? Like, why would FBI HQ tell them you can't, no subpoenas, no search warrants, no interviews, no nothing until the election's over, whether she wins or not? But with Trump, they didn't do any of that stuff. Like they went balls deep with Trump. You got to wonder why that is. They were both candidates at the time, right? But obviously, like there's some bias there and some criminality, and they partook in the frame job that was the Russiagate stuff that we're hoping to get to the bottom of here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I mean is that, or it's like a pause where the people that are handling all this criminal material on the Clinton Foundation are then the ones that are disseminating, it just feels to me like they were playing a bit of an inverted Mad Libs game and being like, what do we have? What do we who are not going to prosecute or leak anything about the Clinton Foundation, what do we have on them if we were real investigators? And how can we poison the well on each of these concepts? So I'm not saying they literally accused Trump of the exact actuals, because they're not one-for-one actuals, but broadly speaking, it's like, okay, if the Clinton Foundation was actually involved in collusion against the United States with a foreign adversary, we're going to leak to the media that Trump was involved in collusion with a foreign adversary. And it was this front running of all these narratives. So again, if the normie hive mind is blitzed for years with Trump foreign collusion, forget the country, Trump foreign collusion, Trump foreign agent, Trump, treason. Then when Trump comes back around and says all that's true about the Clintons, it just sounds like Boy Who Cried Wolf to a lot of people, which is a lot of how that works. Obviously we know that actual accountability doesn't happen without real investigations and prosecutions, but so much of the public mandate for that is based around the storytelling. And I think a massive reason that they buried this stuff was not because I don't think they really, if they controlled people in the DOJ, they knew they weren't going to be investigated or prosecuted. It's more they suppressed the narrative, they suppressed the details of the story.
Yeah, well, I think it's because there's actual crimes there,
Yeah, for sure.
But the way you said that, it brings up kind of the Comey situation, because that's what I think this is. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but Comey got indicted for the 8647, and I personally think it's weak. Okay, and it's not because I like Comey. Comey sucks. Like Comey should be in prison.
Homie.
Comey is not my homie. Comey should be in prison for the rest of his life. If he should not even be put to death for treason, like that's a real thing. He partook in the Crossfire Hurricane thing. I think this entire thing was treasonous, and I think all the people that partook in it should be tried for treason, and whatever punishment comes from that should be the punishment they get.
If guilty.
If guilty. to like sit here and like cheer that he got indicted for posting a picture on Instagram. Yeah. Like, I think that is so weak. And there's conservatives out there, Jack Posobiec. Maybe a lot of people don't give a shit. I know I don't about Jack Posobiec, but he did 86-46. If by the same standard, we should be calling for his indictment too. Anybody who's ever said that. I know every time there's Europe, like we make fun of them for arresting people for memes on the internet. I know the Douglas Mackey thing when he posted a meme of Hillary Clinton and we were like, oh my God, what about free speech, all that stuff. Like if you're going to have principles, you have to apply them equally. And I personally do not see any issue with what he said. And yes, I probably do believe that he knows what 86-47 meant, but still free speech is free speech. In my opinion, I don't have an issue with it. And what I think this does now, like, cause this is the second time that he's been indicted. You had the first one where he lied to Congress and you had Lindsey Halligan come out and get him. And then it got dropped because she wasn't an actual prosecutor and they ended up not going with it anyway. Weird. But then this time now he's prosecuted for this. And I'm of the mindset that I don't think this is gonna stick. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is something that the grand jury saw that we don't have access to. It's going to be hard for me to imagine like he's texting behind the scenes like, yeah, I'm actually trying to like get somebody to assassinate the president, make sure, you know, they see my Instagram for the code of it. Like, I don't think those texts exist, but we'll see what they have as this case goes on. I'm going to play this clip from Judge Napolitano quick because I think this is, browser is being so dumb. Okay, here we go. Let me play just the first part of this.
Senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. So, Judge, the last time they got this thing thrown out because of a process issue. Right. This is not in Virginia. This is not in D.C. This is in North Carolina. Process isn't going to get it done this time.
Well, I don't think it matters that there's a relatively conservative jury base here because I don't think this case will ever see a jury. There's no crime here under several Supreme Court opinions, one of which says if there's a passage of time between the alleged threat and any harm caused, that dissipates the threat. And it also gives the person threatened the opportunity to challenge it. Stated differently, if this were a real threat to the President of the United States, Comey would have been charged a year and a half ago. But the more important legal principle is free speech. If there is any non-criminal interpretation of the speech, that trumps, no pun intended, lowercase t, that trumps the criminal aspect. So are there other meanings to 86-47 besides I want to kill the president?
No. I don't think there are, right? Because 86 is
also used in
interpreted
diners
as
to cancel an order.
Well, 86,
or to
right, 86
kill,
could mean cancel the presidency.
kill or cancel, right?
As long as there's a non-criminal interpretation of this, it's protected speech. I think the case is frivolous. I'm not a fan of Comey's at all, and I've never hesitated to criticize him. And we all know what almost happened to the President of the United States the other night and two dreadful prior occasions. But this is a political vendetta against a political adversary, and it shouldn't be using the Justice Department as a means for that.
And that's the part of it. So I do believe and hope that the Rico Grande investigation going on behind the scenes comes to fruition. And if it goes the way it should, James Comey should be indicted for that. And now when we're talking about the narrative and the boy who cried wolf, does this indictment dilute the effects of a later Rico Grande indictment? And maybe it doesn't matter, but when we're talking about the normies and like the people who aren't invested like we are in all this stuff, I think it does matter. I think the narrative and the optics of some of this stuff is important. And we had 4 years while the Democrats were politically persecuting Trump. They kept warning that when Trump gets in there, he's just going to go after all his political enemies. You know, we're sitting here saying like, yeah, but he's going to go after them with actuals. Like we're going to go after him with treason stuff, like stuff that's going to, you know, come with a big boom behind it. And it's going to be clear for everybody that it doesn't matter. But when you get like the second one now against Comey, I think it dilutes the effects of later charges. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just I think that philosophical approach should be expanded on, which is, again, I know you and Chris talked about this a little bit on Saturday night of the doomer refrain, and I'm not trying to get all defensive of us. I just mean to make a more active point that the thinking that your skepticism about this, or Judge Napolitano there, is defending Comey or wanting him not to face justice, which is what a lot of people think, is ridiculous. And by the way, I know that a lot of people that feel that way, have an emotional reaction like that, have that emotional reaction because when they see this news come across the wire, like I did, the initial way it hits you is excitement. You're like, guy we think is bad guy, indicted by Trump DOJ, right? By the DOJ under Donald Trump. Good. And I'm willing to accept, based on further developments, that this could be leading to good things. Maybe there's something there that we don't know, like you said, that will be revealed. Maybe this leads to something else. Maybe there's cooperation going on with Comey. Maybe they're leveraging him in ways with this. Like, you can go down any of those thought paths, and I don't think you're wrong for doing that. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to play hypothetical games to go down that way of why this is a great thing, you have to be able to go down the opposite path. And I don't think that's a doomer's refrain, by the way. I think that, you and I talked about this through the context of the entire deep state in the aftermath of the 2024 election. The terminology we were using on those shows was hibernation theory. Okay, now that Donald Trump is being reinstalled as public president of the United States in 2025, if you were the deep state, do we think they still exist within the US government? Yes, right? I don't think a single person watching this show would say no. We probably vary, all of us, on how much power we think they have when it comes to, like, right now in these various agencies and apparatus. But we know they're there. A lot of them are still there. Congress is still there. The Senate is still there. The Department of Justice is still there. I know there were firings here and there, but guess what, guys? If you believe the stories that people like Tulsi Gabbard and some of these Trump appointments were put into these positions to help clean out these agencies, it means those agencies still need to be cleaned out and that Donald Trump does not trust these agencies. It means, by definition, there is not full control of every single aspect of the United States government. And if you want to go down that thought path, you can think, if you were the enemy, besides hibernation theory, which we talked about, which is more, media, I think that's more talking about politicians. Keep your head down, wait till Trump's out of there, and then resurface. If you still had deep state elements within the Department of Justice, and we know the whole point of this show tonight is that as of the last 10 years, it's infested, absolutely infested. Arguably, Donald Trump's biggest target, other than the media, has been the Department of Justice of the United States. That's still the same Department of Justice, by the way, even though Donald Trump is the president. So if you were deep state elements within the DOJ, what would you try to do? What would your way of combating or continuing this insurgency against the president, what form would that take? It might take forms like this, what Jon is talking about. It might mean you come out and try to flood the zone with indictments that are, in the words of Napolitano, frivolous, because you know, or you fear rather, that real indictments with teeth could be coming down the line against these figures. And one more point on it would be, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw today in the news, I don't know if Todd Blanche is good or bad, right? I know that he's supposedly Trump's guy. But he was fielding questions from the globalist media today, the deep state media, about whether or not Donald Trump had to do with this specific indictment. And to me, that is narrative construction. It could also be legal construction. Because if you fast forward to a hypothetical where Comey is indicted for actuals as part of a Rico Grande, like you're talking about, don't you think a core part of his defense, his legal defense, would be an argument that they put forth of tracing actual indictments back through the Donald Trump DOJ that were frivolous? And so that even if the third one is not frivolous, there are many cases in American history where a criminal gets off because of prior frivolous prosecutions. So I don't know if that's what's going on here. Ultimately, I hope and believe there are ways to get these people that Donald Trump knows about. Maybe that's through the military. Maybe that's through OIGs. Maybe they're exhausting all of these options en route. But, you know, it's important to look at that. People think, oh, you're dooming out. You don't think this is justice. It not only might not be justice, it might be a way to prevent that exact thing.
Yeah, and so Comey appeared in court today. He turned himself in Virginia. The grand jury indictment came out of North Carolina, but he went there, and his attorney even said that he would argue that the case is a vindictive prosecution, meaning it was brought to punish Comey for exercising his legal rights. And then another thing, I'm seeing a lot of comments. So number one, the same accounts in the chat that are saying, you know, if you would just read Q, you'd be super happy right now. They're also saying that I'm a downer by saying this. It's retarded. It's always the same accounts. But also, you guys said the same thing about Comey last time he got indicted. And look what fucking happened to that indictment. It got dropped. It didn't stick. And then you guys are like completely memory wiped that, memory hold it, didn't talk about it at all. And now all of a sudden you're right again. So retarded. Number two, those saying that, well, they have all those communications in a grand jury. Phil Scarborough said a grand jury found him guilty. That's not what grand juries do. Grand juries issue indictments. And guess what? How many grand juries issued indictments against Donald Trump that for years you guys all said was bullshit? You had one in Washington, D.C., one in New York, one in Georgia, and one in Florida. He's the most
indicted world leader ever.
4 separate grand juries issued indictments against Donald Trump. And we spent years defending him from that because they were bullshit. They were political persecution and bullshit. What does that say about this? Like, all of a sudden grand juries are great now? Like, it kind of depends, doesn't it? Don't you think? So it's just that this is the stuff like that drives me nuts when it comes to the truth community, and like, keep your emotions in check when you see the news, right? Yeah. Something happened. Yes. Comey, he's a bad dude. He deserves to be in prison for many reasons. I think this post is the weakest of those reasons. And there's no need to like be dishonest about that. And trying to like defend it is just, it's weird. It's weird and it's stupid. Like, stick to your principles, guys. What happened? What changed between 2 years ago or 3 years ago when Donald Trump got indicted by 4 separate grand juries and now Comey getting indicted by one of them? And what's different now? Is it just because your guy's in charge and because you don't like this guy? Like, it shouldn't be that way.
By the way, and just as an aside, I've served on a grand jury. I don't know how many people have. I know
you're not allowed to say that, I thought.
Yeah, you can.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I was like, oh no. No. But, you know, there's different types of jury duty, but I've served on a grand jury like 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And there really are a lot of people who don't know how those work, including me before I did. And what you find out is not only what you said, that grand juries serve indictments, not convictions, but you are told when you are serving on a grand jury, the threshold for serving an indictment is extremely low compared to a conviction. There is no beyond a reasonable doubt language. There's a lot of crossed wires that happen because of that word jury, and because of the Prussian education system we're all subjected to, the fact that we are not taught in public American schools about the differences between grand juries and trial juries and all this kind of stuff. John Drake would go off on this. But one of the things that was communicated pretty clearly to me on my grand jury duty was the idea that you're reminded every day what you are there to do as a grand jury is listen to evidence. By the way, you are never listening to evidence or argument from the defense, because there is no defense when you're a grand jury. All you are listening to is the people who want to prosecute a certain person. That could be police, they can call witnesses, etc. But what they tell you, what the lawyers tell you or state prosecutors tell you, is that all you are there to determine is not guilt or innocence or beyond reasonable doubt. It is there enough here where you think a trial should be had to determine guilt or innocence? Do you think there's enough here to publicly accuse somebody of a crime? That's literally all it is. So, and every point you made stands in terms of Donald Trump. Partisanship matters, I think, way more in a grand jury than it does in a trial jury. And they're hopefully stricter about that in a trial jury. With a grand jury, I think it's just a simple majority, although I could be wrong there with a grand jury. But Either way, the threshold is very low. And the other point I would make to bolster yours, again, with the whole people getting excited about this kind of thing. And you said, what happened to some of the truth community? You could argue that getting really excited about an indictment like this is actively subverting and casting doubt on you, the general you in the truth community, your belief that Comey was involved in a grand conspiracy against the president. Because if you do believe he was involved in a grand conspiracy against the president, then you should have all the confidence in the world that he is going to be charged with being involved in a grand conspiracy against the president. And the funny thing is, the cheerleading about frivolous indictments before that actual indictment comes down, not only did we say in the previous segment, could actively blunt or disarm that future indictment, it also implies that psychologically you don't think that indictment is coming because you're counting on this one. And I don't see a lot of truthers talking about that. They just talk about James Comey being indicted, and it's like, so do you think this is the last time he's going to be indicted? Or are you just excited that this is one of the indictments that's coming? Like, I think it's that any chance to, they get a fish, almost on the line, and they're super excited at every bite. And, a veteran fisherman is not excited at bites. He's excited when he sees the bobber fully submerged because he knows he's got something.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I'm not excited about this. And here's the thing. I don't get emotionally attached, or I try not to. I'm not perfect, but I try not to get emotionally attached to any of these stuff. But I'm not excited about this, like you said, but I'm also not 100% convinced the Rico Grana investigation is coming too. You know what I mean? So I'm in neither of those camps or both those camps.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I'm the
well,
inverse.
My point, and just, sorry, Dust Bunny said, and I know this, not picking on specific people, but just said, come on, guys, we know what a grand jury does. A lot of people don't, and a lot of the questions in the chats demonstrate that you don't. The reason I say that is to demonstrate that some people don't. The reason I say that is specifically regarding claims of evidence. Grand juries are not shown evidence. They are rarely shown evidence. They are rarely shown the type of evidence that is shown in court. They are subjected to testimony. Most of what a grand jury hears is witness testimony, which, as most people do know, in a trial is considered the weakest and least applicable evidence in a trial. The prosecution doesn't come out to a grand jury usually and talk about all the blood samples and this and that. You might have cops that were on the scene that say things like that, but most of it is witnesses and interviews. So, okay, have these people told a compelling enough story in order to hand down this indictment? And, again, it's just worth the refresher for some people, because I didn't know any of that until I was on one.
Yeah, and also there's another comment in here. I saw somebody say that General Flynn said that there's incriminating text messages or something that exist. Now, that is very possible. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm questioning how he would know that, because if it's a true grand jury investigation and all that stuff, any evidence they used shouldn't be leaked. They can't leak grand jury deliberations or, what they're shown. So I don't know how you would know that at this point, but unless it's been publicized, until it comes out in the actual trial part, which they're going to challenge this. His attorney already said he's going to. It's probably going to get appealed. This could end up going back up to multiple higher courts. But I don't know. I feel like, especially in the narrative space, considering how weak it is, if those existed, I feel like they probably would have led with that. They probably would have put that in the indictment. But they didn't. But maybe not. I don't know. I've seen some of those indictments. It's also different. And I haven't followed much of North Carolina or the attorney who's actually running the case. I don't think it's Todd Blanche, but some of the prosecutors, like the SPLC one, they clearly laid out what was done. In the case, they left enough there to, okay, they're clearly guilty here. They have it. They could have listed all the F persons or whatever, but they only listed 10 of them. And then you have the Durham case, where it's this long ass speaking indictment of all these things. And that's kind of because they knew they weren't going to have a case. This one is just, he broke this law, and grand jury found enough evidence or whatever to go to trial, to indict him. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But I think you're onto something with the political persecution, and how could that backfire later on if he wins on this argument? That'd be picture a separate set of indictments that come down for grand conspiracy.
Do we think that the prosecution would cite this one? I doubt it. You know, they might bring it up as a pattern of behavior. You know, they might bring, I mean, I don't mean the indictment. They might bring up that Instagram post or the Facebook post, wherever the fuck it was, as part of a pattern of behavior or character witness type of thing with Comey in a grand conspiracy case. But it would just be a little bit of seasoning for the jury and for the court. So, but the real point here is, would the defense of James Comey bring up this indictment? You bet your ass they would, and they are already telling you. And, you know, we talk about media timing and all that kind of stuff, or at least I talk about narrative timing a lot. Man, they were ready quick with this one, right? Like, everybody in the media with Todd Blanche was immediately talking about this. So it could be that they're all playing defense at the same time. It could also be that maybe they knew this indictment was coming down, and maybe this indictment is not coming from quote unquote our side, and the media knows that the indictment itself is a part of their defense. Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. As with all things, like even the shooting we talked about, right? Like, I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's fake. Don't really care about that aspect of it. I'm paying attention to the psyops that come out of it. And it's going to be interesting to watch the psyops that circulate surrounding this Comey indictment. And I know Brennan's back in the news too. Todd Blanche put that Joe DiGenova in there. Did we talk about it on this show? The subpoenas that he issued?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
So when Joe DiGenova got put in as the like special prosecutor overseeing the Brennan situation, there were already 2 witnesses that were like voluntarily cooperating and willing to sit down for interviews. And he gets in there and right away he issues 2 subpoenas to those people, 1 subpoena to each to come talk. And I was like, that's weird. They're already cooperating witnesses. They said they'll come talk to you and you're going to go in and subpoena them anyway. I don't think you do that unless it's like just for the narrative of you being able to do it. And sure enough, this last week, and I think I talked about this on my show and on Monday with Zach, but they withdrew those subpoenas. And to me, that kind of, I think I was right about them doing it because nobody's talking about them withdrawing the subpoena. Everybody went nuts about him. Like, oh, look, he's already like stepping on the gas pedal by issuing these subpoenas. They've already withdrawn those. So I don't know, man. I'm partially on a couple rugs. I talk about this all the time. I'm partially on the Rico Grande rug, partially on the election, integrity rug. Hopefully, those 2 things are maybe even connected. What's this?
Trump just posted 27 minutes ago. People were talking about.
He talked about this earlier too.
Yeah. 86 is a mob term for kill him. They say 86 him. 8647 means kill President Trump. James Comey, who is a dirty cop, one of the worst, knows this full well. 8 miles out, 6 feet down. Didn't he also lie to the FBI about this? I think so. And yeah, I mean, Trump also tweeted truth about the last Comey indictment, as he should.
And think does that help Comey's case?
Yeah.
That helps Comey's case.
Yeah, it helps the political persecution defense against him. Not that I don't expect Trump to do this, because, ultimately, if Comey was involved in a grand conspiracy, and if Trump is willing to truth that out about these cases, I think that they know that this isn't going to protect him. I'm just looking at these things as attempts to protect themselves that aren't going to work. And I think you can take confidence out of Trump saying that, but I don't think you can. Personally, I don't think that means you should take confidence that this is the indictment that is going to result in convictions for James Comey. Yeah. I think it's more that Trump is saying, I'm not worried about this. And yeah, James Comey is a crook. And yeah, do I believe Comey meant that? Yes, I do. Just to make that clear, because in case anybody doesn't think we believe that, I think most people in this community definitely believe that's what Comey meant. But it's all about what can you actually get these people on. Trump truths every single day and for 10 years about criminals and traitors using any number of things that they've said or done. But it's all about what's actually going to bring them down. I think Trump knows what's actually going to bring them down. And I don't think you can look at any number of things he truths out as being the thing that's going to bring them down.
Yeah. And I think there's more to this too. When you look at, like, wasn't it George Soros's son who posted the bullet in the window and then like the $45 or something? And it's like, this is clearly an assassination call or attempt or something. Like, why aren't we persecuting that one? And then there's so many people like that have made public threats. You got to be consistent with it. When you're not, I think again that makes it look more like political persecution, which I think is the optics that Trump would want to avoid. I mean, Trump does this. He drafts with the narratives all the time, and it's not like Trump was in the back room here investigating this and like telling them like go do this thing. He says things publicly, but when we talk about the TV characters, and I made this point on my show, I think today or yesterday, I trust Trump, and I believe Trump is the only one I give the benefit of the doubt to, because he's the only one I know for sure is constantly doing psyops. But everybody else in his administration, you have to look like almost with a side eye or a lazy eye, like if it's Kash Patel. You can't trust them. You don't know if they're Trump's guy or not. Like, you just don't know. We want to believe they're all doing it for the right reasons. They're all good people, but we don't know. We don't know how many of these actions and moves are actually meant to, in effect, sabotage Trump in some ways. And so that's why, again, it's very important to operate based on your first principles. And that's what we're trying to do here. So, yeah, would love to see Comey in prison. This is weak. I want to see him in prison for treason. If we don't get that, and this is all we get, and he's guilty, so be it.
Yeah, and I like HR Blamond in the chat just said, why are Q people excited about this at all? Quote, military is the only way, not the court system. Now, whether or not that's true, that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is that if you believe that from the drops, which I think makes sense, whether or not you believe in the veracity of the Q drops or not, I think that rhetoric makes sense. That thought path makes sense to me. It always has made sense to me. If we are dealing in the era of Donald Trump, don't have to pick a year, in the era of Donald Trump, if we are truly dealing with the unearthing and the revelation of an American deep state criminal organization, a RICO, that is treasonous to the United States, treasonous to the American people, that goes back a long ways, and that has levered the administrative state and the Department of Justice against the American people by going against their president and their chosen representative, then it has never made sense that the remedy is going to come out of that system. We talk about this all the time, mostly through the lens of the election system. The remedy for a corrupt election system is not going to come through the election system. Most Q people 10 years ago, 9 years ago, etc., used to believe and understand just logically that the solution for the corrupt DOJ does not come through the DOJ. That is not to say that good men in the DOJ are not going to play a massive role in cleaning it out or in getting this information where it needs to go, and probably have been doing that the entire time. I don't believe for an instant that most of the DOJ is corrupt. I mean, Trump says that all the time, and I believe him when he and Kash Patel says that all the time, that most people in the FBI, most people in the DOJ are good Americans who believe in justice. But they also have built their entire names, Donald Trump and Kash Patel, on the idea that that system has been weaponized, and that the people they're going after are the people who weaponized it. So the Q community all used to march in lockstep on the idea that this could only be done through the military, through the OIG. We've talked about this for years, whether or not it's true. But if it's true, what you might be looking at here, this is a weird way to make it encouraging, but it's kind of how I see these things. This to me would be part of an unraveling and a public demonstration to the people, especially to the Trump people, that it's not going to happen through the DOJ. And that not only is the DOJ not going to give you justice for this stuff, they're going to obstruct it. They're going to protect themselves. They're going to protect the apparatus. And the good way of looking at that is that every avenue through the DOJ that is closed off, every avenue to justice that is closed off and blunted, just increases the legal, constitutional, and I believe public mandate to go by other means. So that's a hopium take, but it is an inherent contradiction in much of the truth community who all talk about military as the only way, but now you think Todd Blanche is going to roll up the deep state? What are you talking about? When has that ever been part of the plan? So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a little silly.
Sohack in the chat says, so apparently Jon doesn't think that devolution was real or anything is going to change. And It's absolutely retarded that people come to these conclusions. I see it all the time. Today on my show, I talked about a lot of this stuff, and then sure enough, in the replies on Twitter, you get somebody who's like, oh, clearly you're just blackpilling and you're doing all, whatever. You hate Trump and stupid. Like, I never said any of those things, but they come in and they misapply like what I actually think to me, and they do it as a way to like attack me. It's so weird and so stupid. Of course, devolution. This is the thing. I don't know if devolution is still going on, and if it is, that means the same fake administration that we had under Joe Biden is still going on, even though Trump is the guy in charge.
Including the DOJ.
Including the DOJ, all of it. Like the same fake administration we had under Biden could have just switched people in charge, and we're having the same exact thing in devolution could still be going on right now. I don't know for sure. But there's like, you could make that argument and make it pretty successfully, I think, in a lot of ways. And it would apply to reality right now, like in a lot of what we see. And if that's the case, what does that mean about all this stuff that's going on? We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And the fact that we still don't have the national resilience strategy that was supposed to come out almost a year ago now, that's insane to me. It was supposed to be issued in 90 days from March something. We're approaching the year anniversary of when it was due a year ago, and it hasn't happened yet. But that's what's supposed to like shed light on, hey, we're going to update the national continuity policy, all this stuff. Did Joe Biden's partial revocation of 13961, did that carry any weight? Is it still going to be there? Are they going to put anything back in? Like, we don't know what the landscape looks like. And even when that comes out, we may not know. But you can't look at this stuff at face value, like anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing that that's controversial in the InfoWar community. I do think the controversy is dialed up.
I'm so sick of people misapplying, and I don't even know if that's the right word. They're attributing takes to us.
Misappropriating.
Okay, so I did say that right, didn't I?
You said misapplying, but same thing.
Okay, same thing. Misappropriating takes to us that we don't have and never have had. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, and I would also say again that if military is the only way is true, then what it really means is what you just talked about with devolution. Then what the funniest thing in the world is going to be, if we're right about our concerns about the DOJ, including the current DOJ, then what the Q community is going to do is what they always do, is when it turns out we were right about that, and let's just say in Fantasyland, somewhere down the line, an OIG report comes out, an action comes out outside of the purview of the DOJ to address the failings of the DOJ, specifically regarding things like this. Were we still doomers for questioning that DOJ? If the military, I know I'm in Fantasyland, but if the military goes after the DOJ for obstructing justice, are we doomers for questioning that DOJ in real time that the Q community is cheering for? That's the thing I'm wondering about, because as you said, it's the same Department of Justice, it's just led by a different president, but the president doesn't lead the Department of Justice. And, again, he's commander-in-chief for a reason. I would really like to think that the military is the only way stuff is real, and not just because it was in Q drops, but because it makes sense to me, again. So it's just, and that's what, when you're talking about the misappropriation of takes, I think that's one frustration. The other frustration is that when we end up being right, we as a collective end up being right a lot about things that are not going to take these people down. It's like the people that were wrong about those things taking these people down the whole time, there is no mea culpas. We're still supposed to feel bad about having been right about it.
It's
because we want the actual justice, not just the story of justice.
It's so weird, and that's such a good point, because that's what we see routinely with, and I hate to like pick on the Q community, but it's
what it is right now.
There's a certain sect of the Q community that, like, this is the third time now that they've celebrated a Comey situation or justice or whatever, and the last two, nothing came from it, and it's happened much more often than just this. Like, they so often predict stuff and get stuff wrong. Nothing ever happens, and then everybody just forgets about it. Nobody talks about it. But then we're sitting here correctly, as you say, like, hey guys, maybe hold your horses. This probably is going to work out the way we think. Like, rug pull, elections are fake, all these things, and then we're the bad guys for saying that stuff, and it ends up being the actual thing that happens the entire time. It's so weird how that fucking works all the time. Pardon my French.
Yeah, and this is why, Nashville sort of a lot of the topics in Nashville and probably going forward was first principles logic, first principles frameworks. When you stay in this stuff long enough, you're going to end up distilling things down to first principles and those approaches, and you're going to last the longest. I mean, mentally, psychologically, you're going to last the longest in this stuff. I heard a snippet of your show on Saturday night with Chris, and you guys were talking about, having very positive and stable mindsets, if not positive, then stable mindsets in this stuff. And you were right. You were talking about how, you specifically were talking about how people that grab onto these rugs, like with everything they have, they're the people who doom out.
Yeah.
The people like us, who Q people have been calling doomers for years, are still here. We're doing it every day. I'm excited. I'm loving it right now. I will admit, I thought the storytelling in 2025 was stale. I was open about that. I just thought the narrative was getting stale. I like the 2026 narrative. There's a lot of interesting shit. I find interesting shit every day. And I'm not a doomer. I think this stuff's all going in the right direction.
The narratives, like, I wouldn't say there's interesting stuff every day. Like it goes up and down.
Fair.
There's some days, like there's some weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing and a curse having a daily show, because my audience, they'll tell you, like, there's some days that come on, I'm like, I'm sorry guys, there's just like nothing to talk. It's all the same. It's boring. Like today's show is like 40 minutes. But like overall macro, there are a lot of exciting
the
loose
big
ends
picture
out there.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why, I obviously focus a lot on international stuff. It's just what I'm interested in. Obviously, we're all interested in kind of different things. It's not because I don't care about the pursuit of justice domestically. It's more that I recognize, as we've talked about for a long time, that the actual and the narrative when it comes to the domestic march for justice is very stagnant. And it's not because I'm dooming out about it. It's because that's the reality. It's also, I believe that it's one of those very slowly and all at once things. And in the realm of justice, I actually think that makes sense. Very slowly and all at once actually makes sense in the realm of justice. Ash talks about this a lot, just because it's like, if there are real investigations going on, which we know there are, John Solomon's reporting, all that kind of stuff, right? Then you do all of the investigating, all of it, every little bit of it. And then you come down with the indictments and the charges, and you go through all that process after that. So I think it will appear sudden when it's like, these people are either indicted for Grand RICO or they are not. It's a binary. It's not a process. The process is the investigation. And the unique thing about that, the reason I don't like talking about this all the time, is because you can't actually track that process. You can only speculate about it.
Yeah.
I'm not discouraging people from speculating about it. I'm just saying it's not my interest. The reason I focus on like multipolar realignments and the sovereign alliance and stuff is because, for me, I feel like you can see the world is realigning and changing on an international basis on a month-to-month, story-to-story basis. So it's just a different framework than justice. That is a very binary thing, where the war against globalism, which is what I'm most interested in, that's not a binary. That's not like we've either defeated globalism or we have not. It is, where is globalism at when it comes to the collective share, and how is it doing on all these various fronts? So maybe that's why I'm more encouraged about things than some people, because I'm like looking at Hungary, I'm looking at Poland, I'm looking at Russia, and you can find like areas where sovereignty is taking ground against collectivism in all those theaters. And if you're one of these people who only focuses on like the DOJ, then you're kind of going to be waiting until you get something.
Yeah, real quick, there's a comment in the chat. It says, please stop acting like you're the victims. You criticize and make fun of people who believe differently than you and John. You forget most of your audience came from the Q movement.
Including me.
Well, first of all, those people that we're talking about are suing us, funding the lawsuit, and subverted, like they came to our conferences, subverted us there. They lied, they've cheated, they stealed. Like
they go into our chats. There are people going into our chats.
Like, so we have every right to play victim if we really wanted to. This is nothing. You just wait until we drop part 2 of our video thing that we're going to do eventually. It's disgusting. You guys have no idea. But
Yeah.
This is nothing.
Very
Anyway,
slow. Speaking of very slowly and then all at once.
yeah. But in terms of like the you said something there, and I don't remember exactly how you said it though. But yeah, it was along the lines of the very slowly and all at once stuff. These like little indictments on Comey, like the little drops from John Solomon at Just the News, and these little like declassified document stuff that we get. I wonder how much of that, and this is like my internal thoughts that I have. How much of this is placation, and how much of this is like, okay, we can gauge where the movement's at. We know that we need to like pump a little lifeblood into them a little bit, just so that they understand that, yeah, it is coming. It just takes time, whatever. Or how much of this is just bullshit, like the placation versus the, here's an adrenaline pump to keep you guys going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's why when I say it's very slowly and not all at once, I mean that positively. It's just also a reality that when you're trying to measure, I don't think it's to your point there. I guess another way to put this would be, I don't think it's possible to achieve incremental justice. I think justice as a principle, as a concept, and as an actual, meaning the actual deliverance of justice, is binary.
Yeah.
And I hope and do have faith that it will be binary. But this goes to a lot of the theme of Ghost and I's discussion on the narrative. It's nothing new to anybody who's been watching any of our shows. You and Chris talk about this all the time, and we just did this show through a different framing on Sunday night. But that mandate cultivation thing, that feedback loop thing we talk about with Donald Trump, this is part of it, in our opinion. Now, you guys want to, some people, not everybody, want to celebrate, the Comey seashell indictment as like the be-all and end-all and this super incremental justice thing, then that's great. But, part of the mandate cultivation thing, I think, is in telling Donald Trump as commander-in-chief and as our chosen sovereign or tribune of the people, as Chris would call him, no, we meant justice. We meant justice, Donnie. So I think he knows that. But there's a very real possibility that the great irony, the great and sad irony of elements within the truth community is that if they had their way, Donald Trump, looking at just their reactions to a lot of these things, might question if he should go all the way. If they're just going to celebrate these little things, they seem fine without the justice, right? They seem like if everything's great all the time, then maybe we don't actually have the mandate that I thought we did to bring the hammer down. And that's why getting on these shows and saying we want justice and repeating that until we get it is not dooming. It is, again, a reminder for people who need the reminder. And Donald Trump does not need this reminder. He works for you. He works for me. He is literally our servant. And he will serve us if he is a good servant of the people and tribune of the people. And if we demand of our servant, Donald Trump, that he deliver justice unto us or on our behalf, on his behalf, that's what I want. I want justice, and I think he will deliver it.
That's funny. I thought women were supposed to be our servants, though.
Well, it's just weird, though, right? Like it's been very twisted. And again, I remember this from my liberal days. There are some of those principles I still do take out of my liberal days. I remember thinking of conservatives as these sycophantic, hero-worshipping, like the president from on high, and it's like the commander-in-chief. Hold on. He's your servant, right? He's literally not a civilian. He is less than a civilian. Like, constitutionally, a president serves you and chooses to serve you. They're supposed to.
It's
Congressmen,
been totally inverted.
Right. Congressmen are not only not supposed to be above their common man, they are by definition supposed to be below the common man.
So
that's why they call them servants.
Yeah. Public servants. I want to play this clip from Bongino on Hannity about a document that he saw, because I want to see this document. I mean, I'd hope that the fact that he even talked about it means at some point we're going to see it, right? But let's listen.
If you have a paper copy of a document you're not obligated to store, you burn it. So it goes in a burn bag. It would be like in the Secret Service, a motorcade route. You don't want the enemy getting it. You throw it in a burn and they burn it. However, somebody didn't burn these bags. Why? Well, see as the case proceeds. But somebody didn't burn these bags. So we found.
I got a question. Do you suspect maybe somebody purposely put them away that you'd find them because they didn't like what they were living through?
And this is why I say to people that be careful painting the entire Bureau with an overly broad brush. There were a ton of bad actors, and more than I expected, and you are correct about that. But there were a lot of people in there under extreme pressure who, you get where I'm going with this, who were probably like, this isn't right.
Do you suspect somebody did it on purpose? They saved it on purpose?
I do.
So that's one part of it. Like, he's kind of alluding to the white hat side of things. Like, there's somebody in there who saved the documents on purpose.
And
hold on one sec there, because the other little note he says there goes into the line of a lot of what we're talking about tonight. Keep in mind, he is referencing the second Trump administration.
Yep.
He is referencing modern times, and as second, co-lead of the FBI, says there were more bad actors there than I thought.
And
Still,
think about that too, because he's the guy who, leading up to his role in the administration, was the Russiagate guy. He wrote books on it. Like, he knew how bad the FBI and the DOJ was. Like, he had a good idea, probably better than most people going into it. And it was worse than he expected in the second Trump administration.
Yep. And that's why, I don't look at the Bongino exit from the FBI as a humiliation thing. I look at it, my hopium take on it would be, we're not getting justice through the FBI and the DOJ. And, I think these guys have roles to play. And I think he was trying to do a good job in there. But, this is part of that mandate cultivation you can look at too. When you've got Bongino in there, who many people in this community trust, coming out and saying the 2025 Trump DOJ was filthy. That should tell you something.
I'm going to respond to another person in the chat. I'm
it's the same fucking people, by the way. Like, and it's all the same.
This is somebody who got offended by my "women are servants" joke. Like, my girlfriend's literally watching it. It's
probably
a joke.
A woman.
Yeah, it's probably, of course, a woman. It's
the
new
same
lady
people.
T.
All they watch is Q content and us to harass us, which is why it's not earnest.
Yeah.
In there under extreme pressure, who, you get where I'm going with this, who were probably like, this isn't right.
Do you suspect somebody did it on purpose? They saved it on purpose?
I do. And it was the mother lode. And there was a document in there that we were never meant to find that was basically the keys to the kingdom on Crossfire. And the document was so sensitive, we were not even to carry it outside of the office, outside of an official with the whole, and I wasn't bringing it home. It was a weekend. So I just stayed at the office to read it. It was about 100 pages with the footnotes. The footnotes were probably as interesting as the actual document. And it took me a good 4 hours to get through this. And I'm reading it, having written, 3 books on Spygate, Russiagate. You covered this. You, John Solomon, Sarah Carter.
Every night.
Oh, my gosh, every night. And I thought it was bad. And like I told you in the beginning of this interview, like, some of the things prior as I came in where I thought this thing was going to be this thing and it turned out to be another thing. This thing I thought was going to be bad. I didn't think it was going to be worse than bad. I'm reading this document and I'm like, I can't believe this happened in the United States. And it wasn't just that it happened in the United States. It was that so many people knew about it and nobody had the balls to say to anyone on the 7th floor or in the agency or with some of our foreign partners, like, hey, that's bullshit. It's in the paper. Just read the paper. All you had to do was read it. This thing was bullshit from the start. I know that's not the.
Yeah, there's that. I wish I had the longer clip because it even goes a little further into that. But you get the idea here. Like, there's reason to be hopeful about the Rio Grande stuff if they're going down that path. Like, where we know, that's the thing about it, we all know where this ends if they actually get there. But the fact that he himself said that there are more bad people in the FBI than we originally thought, or he originally thought, like, that is concerning. That should be concerning. And so
if
maybe
you
we
think
should
that
stop
justice is
depending
coming
on
through
them.
them.
Yeah,
Yes.
we should stop depending on them.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the key, right? Just
The
like
emotionally attached
if you
stories.
think, right? If you think that the FBI and the DOJ are the ones that we're relying on, then I would doom out. But I don't actually think that's who we're reliant on.
No. We've been going 2 hours. Man, that flew by. We should, if there's anything super urgent that you want to throw out there, but I mean like TLDR it. Otherwise we can save it.
The quick take on something out of our boy Besson today.
You don't even know what quick take means.
Yeah, I do. Just a quickie with Besson. He knows all about quickies. He came out with he named Operation Economic Fury, which is like a gayer version, but also probably a much realer version of Operation Epic Fury.
Maybe.
This has been one of my kind of readings of this whole situation, is that the actuals are real, but they are not the ones Donald Trump is talking about with Iran and the blockade that is real and the Ayatollahs that are real and fake at the same time. So what this was this was the headline today: U.S. sanctions 35 individuals and entities to dismantle Iran shadow banking. So people who aren't going to follow me on this, like, that's fine. It's to each their own. If you want to just zero in on the word Iran, you're going to see this as just another layer to the war against the Iranian regime. I personally view this whole thing as a disentanglement operation against the globalist hegemon. And some of the keywords in here, U.S. officials said networks facilitate payments for illicit Iranian oil sales, purchases of missile components, and transfers to terrorist proxies. That's a big one. Iran's shadow banking system serves as a critical financial lifeline for its armed forces, enabling activities that disrupt global trade and fuel violence across the Middle East. This was what Besson said. Illicit funds funneled through this network support the regime's ongoing terrorist operations. If you read all of that without the framing of the nation state of Iran, I believe they are talking, because the sanctions are not specific to Iran. The sanctions are specific to any financial entities or institutions that have funneled money to terrorist organizations in the Middle East. It is being
Executive Order 13818 almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's being framed, it's being, the narrative cover is, and branding is, the Iran war. And do I believe that the CIA installed Iranian regime, whichever one used to be there, facilitated this stuff? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the Iranian regime has always been the good guys or anything like that. I think that they've been Western intelligence installed. But I think that Besant is talking about dismantling that shadow network, and I don't think that shadow network is Iran. And then that leads me to the only other thing, which is reverse indicators abound. I've been working on an article all week about this. To me, the most interesting stuff Trump has been saying over the last week is this little feud has kicked off between Donald Trump and Friedrich Merz, the German chancellor. And I've been saying for weeks, all through my Iran series, I've been writing for 2 months on my Substack, that if this war is really focusing on the Iranian regime, why is Europe the most angry at everything Donald Trump is doing? Why did Emmanuel Macron last week literally say, for the first time in history, we have a US president, a Russian president, and a Chinese president aligned against Europe? Why is Merz going out and making comments about how Donald Trump doesn't have a plan and should withdraw? And to add to that, going back to last week and this week, why is Donald Trump constantly talking about how he has all the time in the world when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz? To me, you have to look at who is actually being squeezed by the Strait of Hormuz. And it is not the United States, even though we're suffering a little bit. It's not Russia, and it's not China. It is Europe. It's Europe. It's our allies in Asia, Japan, Southeast Asia, and South Korea. And it's Australia. They're getting fucked by this whole situation.
Which is why Trump is perfectly okay with dragging this out.
He wants to drag it out. And the best reverse indicator of this, again, is the Germans. It's the Germans and the French, etc. But I think if you're looking for like the pebble that starts an avalanche there, the Germans really seem to be the German government seems to be the most worried about this. And this came, by the way, just as a sovereign alliance pincer, one of a billion of them. we have right here from this week. Germany scrambles for Polish oil route as Russia halts Druzhba flows. So while Trump is sparring with Merz, Putin cuts off any remaining chances of energy lifelines to Germany from Russia. And then Trump says this is the kicker today. The United States is studying and reviewing the possible reduction of troops in Germany with a determination to be made over the next short period of time. And this was in response to a few days earlier, Trump had said the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm doing something with Iran right now that other nations or presidents should have done long ago. No wonder Germany is doing so poorly, both economically and otherwise. So again, when you look at Donald Trump's statements and it's like, oh, it's all about Iran, it's all about Iran. Why is he in a war of words with the leader of Germany? And by the way, Donald Trump had a 90-minute phone call today with Vladimir Putin in which they both agreed to celebrate Victory Day on May 9th again, which was the joint American and Russian, not European, American and Russian victory over the Nazis. Because the Americans and the Russians beat the Nazis, not the Europeans. So pretty interesting that the Victory Day phone call between the US and Russia takes place the week that Donald Trump is feuding with who? The Germans. Just interesting little notes there.
Those were some interesting little notes. And that was, thank you for keeping that brief, Burning Bright.
Each section of it was brief.
I think you need to start thanking us for our attention because
to this matter.
Yeah, because your matters need thanking to listen to for sure. But anyway, that was good. That was good shit. The Iran stuff to me, like, and I said this before the show, I say this on my show, like there isn't a lot of new, super exciting shit to talk about, which is why we haven't talked about it in a while. We'll see what happens, next week when we're almost on the verge of another peace negotiation that gets canceled. We'll see. Trump is clearly comfortable dragging this shit out. The side effects of it are affecting, our new enemies, essentially. So it's good shit. Some Badlands boosts here. We got 1027 JS for $20. Says, thanks, guys. Oh, you know what? I forgot. We have one more sponsor to get to.
How dare you?
And that is Rumble Wallet. You guys, big shout out to those who choose to support the show, giving rants or gifts or super chats or whatever. But a little inside scoop is that most of the platforms that you give those rants on take up to 50%. YouTube, Twitch take 50%. Rumble rants even are 20%. But Rumble decided, as they typically do, when trying to help support the creators that use their platform, they decided to come up with a way that you can give to your favorite creators here at Badlands, and they take zero fees. We can keep nearly 100% of what you send in. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip shows up directly in the chat, and we read them like we always do. All you need to do is on your phone there, go to the App Store, download the Rumble Wallet there, or you can also go on your desktop computer to wallet.rumble.com. It's a great way to support the creators and get rid of the middleman. Big shout out to Rumble and Rumble Wallet and Rumble Studio for always trying to support the creators and making this disruptive technology. There we go. Just a few rants tonight. Not surprising. We probably pissed a few people off.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's okay.
That's okay.
They come crawling back.
Keith Higgins, gerrymandering is another way to say jerry rigging. Jerry rigging was the politically correct way to say it. Way Afro-engineered. SCOTUS just ruled that elections can no longer be N-word rigged. I ain't going to say the word. You almost got me, but I ain't going to say it. Keith Higgins again. John, under devolution rules, Jack Basoba can be indicted for 46 threats because those threats are against 46. The COG leader, Trump, not Biden. Jack should get an auto-pen pardon for conviction, after conviction. Pretty clever. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. Never been a huge
fan. Encourage Keith unless I get really good ones.
I like to encourage Keith. Keith's great. NGK, the withdrawals from Florida were the cases against Trump. Those got dropped. The other case is still ongoing, and it's Joe DeGeneva. I don't think that's right. NGK, it's still going. I know that's going, but I just read you the thing from the Hill. DOJ walks back subpoenas in Brennan investigation. Department of Justice has withdrawn subpoenas related to the investigation into former CIA Director John Brennan. The DOJ issued a small handful of subpoenas over the weekend for witnesses to appear before the grand jury in Washington, D.C. But then they informed the investigators on Monday that they were withdrawing those in favor of the voluntary interview requests. I literally read it as it is. So I'm unsure what you are talking about. But
why is the meerkat in chat speaking about salamanders? What is the context? I would like to know from chat.
He popped in and said, hi, ready to rewind. I don't know.
He said, doesn't even look like salamanders anymore.
I don't know what they could. Did we say something at the beginning about salamanders?
No, I haven't spoken about salamanders in many an age, but
Could
I've always liked that word. I've always been partial to that word, and I think salamanders are exceedingly strange. So I was just curious. Caught my eye is all.
Interesting. If he did rewind, he's not going to hear you say that for like 2 hours.
A while.
So,
but know that I will be wondering deep into
I'm wondering
the night.
too. You know, now that I think about it, I'm not sure I've ever seen a real life in-person salamander.
I have seen salamanders, but I think there's like a lack of salamanders now. I just assume because when I was a kid digging in the garden, I used to find little salamanders every now and again.
Often?
Not often, like once a year maybe. I'd be like, oh, there's night crawlers, there's worms, there's ants, spiders, all that kind of shit. And then every once in a while I'd be like, what is this thing? It's like like a water lizard, like S2G said. It's like, this is like a worm lizard.
Apparently there are salamanders in North Dakota. I'm just not sure I've ever seen one.
Under some rocks, man.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing I don't do very often is like go look under rocks.
Johnny out there. He could find him.
Yeah, he probably could. He looks under a lot of rocks, but he's busy playing sports, man. He's sportsing it up. He doesn't do a whole lot of. Maybe my daughter.
For salamanders and stuff a lot as a kid. I liked bugs.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, those aren't bugs, but I liked bugs, and occasionally, when looking for bugs, you will find a salamander. Oh, gerrymanders.
That's
a gerrymander reference.
He says gerrymander was named after the first shape.
Chris says, man, I had salamanders all the time. You had salamanders? You kept them?
I get it now. I get the joke from the meerkat now. Heard a rant about gerrymandering when I came on. Part of how it got its name was the original one was a salamander shaped. Interesting.
Q-List says the salamanders are a prominent chapter of Space Marines in the Warhammer 40k universe known as the 18th Legion. Interesting. Didn't know that. Am a nerd, though. So I believe you.
I do think I need to my girlfriend says, ask Blowtorch Kid. He will find you one. I do think we need to find or task the neighborhood kids with finding me a salamander. Because now I feel like I need a pet salamander.
Right.
I didn't realize
be careful with them because they're slimy. If you touch them too much, they die. So
they die from being touched?
Yeah, I think so. This is what I remember from being a small child.
Are you sure your parents didn't just say that to get you to stop
touching them? They might have.
Them?
But I don't know. It made sense.
Die from touch. Let's look. Come on, AI. No, salamanders do not usually die just from being touched, but handling them can still harm them because their skin is very sensitive and absorbs oils, salts, lotion, and chemicals from human hands.
I was told that you'd mess up their skin.
Best practice, don't handle one unless you need to move them out of immediate danger. I bet you could handle it after putting soft disclosure on your skin, considering how safe and natural that is. That should be a selling point.
Right.
For soft disclosure, you can handle
safe handling of salamanders.
Salamanders after you.
Chris says, John, what do you live under a rock to have never seen a salamander? Then he says, wait, that's where the salamanders are.
If I did live under a rock, I feel like I would see lots of
salamanders. More salamanders.
Great joke.
Yeah. They're one of those creatures that you're like, I don't feel like this makes any sense.
Yeah.
When you find one, because you're like,
how would they
dressed
survive?
like a worm, but you look like a lizard.
How would they survive like negative 30-degree weather? I mean, I barely survived that.
We should, Yeah, we should. Everybody research salamanders this week. I expect reports next Wednesday night. I expect you lot who are still here to make most things about salamanders next Wednesday night, and I look forward to that confusing everybody else.
I think my next series, I was thinking, should I do more with the Devolution series or whatever? I think I'm just going to do a whole series on salamanders.
Right.
I think that's what the people want.
There's demand. There's a market. If there's a market for it, you'll surely reach it.
Is there a market for it, though? I don't know. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Rave Daddy, BB, are you saying the military is the only way? Trump is only working on the public mandate. He cares about the global rules like Putin. Hold on to your tits. The storm is coming soon. Yeehaw, LMAO.
Matt Rave Daddy in Nashville.
Poking fun.
Strange rant, but
he's poking fun.
I liked him.
Keith O'Higgins for $2 says, I think Q was behind the 8612 on Zachary Taylor as the Whig candidate he represented. The new Whig order. Q, like SCOTUS' ruling today, never wanted to see a country full of Whiggers. That went a little over my head, Keith.
Maybe that was it. Summer Sunset says, wash your hands after touching them. They carry salmonella. Or is it Salamandella?
Mandela.
Maybe that's what my dad told me. Who knows?
Oh my God. Badlands should have a nature show. I can only imagine. That's funny. I want John to do a man on the street type interview with Blowtorch Kid. I have to get his
I didn't
parents.
hear about Blowtorch Kid. This is a local kid?
You didn't hear about this?
No.
So, backyard neighbor kids. There's 4 of them. They just had like a babies, but there's 2 of them that are close to my kid's age. One's like, I don't even know that. I'm gonna get corrected by my girlfriend in the chat, but it's like 6 and 3, maybe just turned 4. And the 6 and 4-year-old are always over jumping on the trampoline, playing around or whatever. And they don't always get along with my kids. Sometimes there's friction. And one day, I'm down in my office. Girlfriend's up at the she's doing her womanly duties, dishes,
complaining,
cooking, probably on a period, whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
And then my son comes in and is like, Dad, and comes down to my office. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to say the name, but so-and-so said he's going to go get his blowtorch and like come burn us or something. It's like, what do you mean? Like, what happened? He's like, well, we were just fighting and I accidentally hit him or whatever. And he said he's going to go get his blowtorch and burn me. It's like, okay, he's clearly not going to do that. So just go back outside. And then like 2 minutes later, I hear my girlfriend up at this thing. She's like, John, the neighbor boy has a blowtorch. He's like walking around with it in our backyard. Like wasn't on or anything. But I come up there and sure as shit, this little 3-year-old had this blowtorch.
Oh my God.
He was walking around the backyard. He couldn't like turn it on or anything, but still he somehow got access to a blowtorch. And so we're like, yeah.
That's close to a horrible story.
Close.
It's not far from a horrible story.
But it turned
like
out
if it was the
story.
6-year-old, I was very concerned.
But the 6-year-old would never do that. He's got a big crush on my daughter.
Okay.
So that wouldn't go over well.
Problem.
But anyway, so now he's referenced to as the blowtorch kid every time I see him. That's who he is.
Leo DiCaprio in the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, super funny. Anyway, let's keep going. How about those Bruins, G-Fontes 119, winning 2-1 in OT at Buffalo, BB, from a Tampa Bay Con Lightning fan, also down 3-2 and heading into potential elimination game 6, but we're away, hoping to see you in round 2.
Yeah, man. I'd love a Bruins Montreal round 2. That's the I as much as stressful as they can be, I love those like original rivalry type games. You wouldn't know anything about that being in Dakota, but
funny.
The hatred. I need,
dude.
I need hate in my sports. I need more hate. There's not enough hate in sports anymore. And
you should hear me watching the Wild play the Dallas. Like the things I've said about Jamie Benn this series alone will send me to hell. Because fuck that guy. Oh.
I hope the Wild win.
I do too. We need it.
We're
up 3-2, man. They got a big game tomorrow. Very excited about it.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah, I don't think the Bruins are going to win. I think Buffalo is the better team. But I didn't think we were going to be in the playoffs. But that was sick from Pasta.
Yeah, I don't know.
We shouldn't talk to Chris about.
Yeah, Chris's team just lost tonight. That's probably why he hasn't responded in a while. 417 Patriot. Good to see you, by the way. I thought that I'm being a new follower of Q. You were supposed to have less effing sand in your vagina. Get out of here with that shit. Retard's gonna retard non-mean. You guys are effing great. We love you. When is part 2? That's a great comment. But I don't know.
When
It
justice
might be a
is
little
served.
bit, but you'll see. 417 Patriot again says, I've said this before, but a reminder that you're attacked the most when you're over the target and doing shit right. Take the hate as the highest compliment. They hate us because they ain't us. Effing losers. Yeah, and it goes in waves too. Like we see the behavior, we call it out. People, mostly those people in our chats as socks, bitch about it. And eventually they go away when things are good, and then they do stupid shit again. Instead of like admitting how retarded they are, they go into our chat and just try to ruin our shit. So it is what it is. Part of the territory. Diane Laporte Clump for $20. Good to see you. Thank you both for sharing information with the people. BB is correct, and our servants and trustees in government, including Trump, are only there by the people creating their seats.
And Trump knows this, so that
Yes,
should
he
never be
does.
taken as a casting aspersions. He is
Giving the government back to we the people.
Yep. So I have all the faith in the world that is his intention. Whether or not he will succeed, that's what we're here to try to push along however we can.
The Meerkat for $5 says, might as well pay for my random distraction. It was a random distraction, but it was a good one. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed it very much. Do you have an outro video for us?
I do.
By the way? Okay, good.
It is the blowtorch scene from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Perfect. And then Keith O'Higgins, John, now that your son is confirmed, you'll have to have the birds and the bees talk with him. Leave the lotioning the salamander talk to Uncle Bernie Braid.
Yes.
Terrible.
Also, reminder, new time for Badlands Story Hour, Thursday nights, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a good wind down for Chris and I and for all of you. So the movie for tomorrow night is a great one. This was my first time seeing this.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, No Country for Old Men, 2007. So we will be discussing that 10:30. You guys still have time. It's late enough on Thursday night to do your homework before the show. So join us. And yeah.
You know, I've always wanted to like stumble across a drug deal gone wrong and just become immediately wealthy because of it. Minus the getting hunted part, but
right.
The first part would be cool. It's never happened though.
Good movie though.
Yeah, good movie.
Just one of those ones that I missed.
Yeah, good. Okay, let's watch the outro.
Okay. Do you want me to
And thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up. Also, do me a favor. Do us a favor. I'm going to post the YouTube link here in the chat. And I'm going to keep saying this because it is very helpful. If you guys could do me a favor and go over to YouTube and hit that thumbs up. I know it's annoying. We hate YouTube, but you're not supporting YouTube. You're supporting us on YouTube. You're helping us make more money from YouTube.
Right.
Which is a good thing. So support Badlands Media. Support us. Mm-hmm. Go click on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. In the future, have both tabs open at the same time. Watch them both. Can't hurt.
They usually drop our YouTube money in a bag in the West Texas desert. Yeah. We have not found one yet, but we're assured they're there.
No, we're monetized now. We get little peanuts here and there, and it's
when
been
Ghost
helping.
Doesn't demonetize me, maybe someday I'll realize that I'm monetized. No matter how much I begged him to stop,
well,
he just would not.
It's not a lot. That's the thing, but it has been getting better now that people are starting to do both. It helps. It really does help. And
he just kept being like, "I don't care," and I was like, "Ghost, but I do. Please stop." But
so
that's
funny.
The way he is.
Anyway,
I sent you the link on YouTube so you can play it.
Okay, hold that up right now.
This is very graphic, people. So
is it actually?
Don't be a pussy.
Oh my gosh, that's so loud.
Yeah.
Can we not do this scene?
No, it's great.
Oh my gosh,
it's what nearly happened in John's backyard.
It starts with like this vicious scream, and I don't want to. Let's find a better outro, man.
That's the best blowtorch scene there is.
We don't need to do a blowtorch scene. We can do better. We can do better. I don't do well with gore, and this is like... Here, let me show you the Let me show you guys the very first part of this, like how loud this is. I'm not going to listen to that whole
That's
thing.
great.
Hell no. We can do better.
That's after Brad Pitt has smashed her face off of an end table several times.
Oh, yeah, I've actually never seen that movie.
It's fantastic. The ending is
based,
nuts, but
based on that
really
right there, it does not.
It's actually very cathartic because those people are evil, and Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio give him a little what for. We could watch Salamander Facts.
Oh, plus we got to say bye-bye to YouTube. Yeah, let's watch some Salamander Facts for a little bit.
Okay. This one's a little less graphic. Well,